Welcome to TYT Sports. Everybody, those of you tuning in on Pluto, hope you had a wonderful New Year's and New Year's Eve. Welcome to the 2017 edition of TYT Sports, where we are sick as dogs. But we will not let that stop us from giving you the news. So those of you who are tuning in to all the madness that was the bowl games for college football might have heard something a little out of the norm from the Oklahoma Auburn Allstate Sugar Bowl with broadcaster Brent Musburger. Now, Brent Musburger has been doing this for a long, long time, ever CBS Sports, ABC, calling mostly football games, and his contract as of now includes the likes of the Sugar Bowl this year, the Rose Bowl, I believe, next year, the championship game in 2 years, and he's been around for a while, 77 years old. Now, he came under some heavy criticism because how he praised Joe Mixon and he wished him to have a great career. And then at some point during the broadcast, he must have checked his Twitter or heard from somebody that he was getting an insane amount of outrage back towards him because of, at this point, if you don't know, we'll leave some links in the description. And those watching on Pluto, Joe Mixon, who is now mostly known for breaking the face of Amelia Molitor during an altercation 2.5 years ago, in which the videotape was dumped about a couple of weeks ago. This has happened in 2014. Videotape dumped didn't happen until about 2 weeks ago because it was part of the case and the trial and the decision that at some point the video had to be released. Why it was 2.5 years is very confusing and very strange in between. So outrage, how could Joe Mixon keep a scholarship, all these things, we can leave some more details in the description. However, those of you who've seen the video know what happened, and this is what Musburger said, and then I want to hear Francis's response. Apparently, some people were very upset when I wished this man well at the next level. Let me make something perfectly clear. What he did with that young lady was brutal, uncalled for. He apologized, he was tearful, and he got a second chance. He got a second chance from Bob Stoops, head coach of Oklahoma. I happen to pull for people with second chances, okay? Let me make this absolutely clear. I hope he has a wonderful career and he teaches people with that brutal, violent video. Okay? Second down and 9. Francis, what exactly do you think he's trying to teach people from this video?
All right, so the first half of the quote, I understand where he's coming from. The second half of the quote is just, it baffles me. Like, what does he mean in terms of he can teach people from this? Like, teach people what? This is an overall ideology that far too many people have when it comes to American football, is that just because you can be a badass on the field, you can act however you want off the field, and you can expect people to kind of give you a pass. The Ray Rice instance, what went on with the New York Giants kicker recently, Josh Brown, it's just this overall really detrimental culture that we have towards kind of dismissing the actions off the field in order to preserve this player's image on the field. And it needs to be stamped out at this age, even earlier, that you cannot act this way and expect to just go about your business. And I get it, right? This guy is 77. You're not going to change his mind. No. You're not going to change anything he has to say. So I'm not going to come on here and rip apart this guy who's been part of this game for decades, and he's seen this game evolve, and he doesn't want to see his game change.
Right.
That's the thing. So it would be a waste of my oxygen to rip this guy apart, because I don't even think he knows what he was saying. I think he's just saying, the guy deserves a second chance. I want him to go and do things. Whereas I have a little bit more of a harsh outlook on this, and I think, no, you make an example out of someone like this. You revoke his scholarship, and you don't let him play, and he needs to work his way back into a certain level of respect. He needs to go and attend anger management. Like that girl, does she get a second chance for her face? Like, that's the thing. Her face got battered. And this guy...
Yeah, so... I'm sorry.
Is this quotation here as a means to say, he needs to teach people other way. Well, if you're a human being, you don't need to be taught that that's the way that you shouldn't act. You should know that.
So, look, the idea of second chances is, of course, something that is a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, no
That's
doubt.
why you can't always say everybody deserves a second chance. By that logic, Charles Manson deserves a second chance. I don't know what a drastic, example to use, but if you're saying everybody deserves a second chance, then you must really mean that everybody does. So when I look at the Joe Mixon, and it had nothing to do with the video, right? When I did the clip on Joe Mixon, there's a clip titled on our channel about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Joe Mixon breaks women's face and keeps a scholarship. Because people at the time were calling for Bob Stoops to be fired. The Oklahoma, that doesn't do anything now.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma, the athletic director, but they all knew this information. They knew the details of this case 2.5 years ago, and they did nothing. That's when you're supposed to fire them, 2.5 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago after some time to think about it. Doing it now does literally nothing. All it says is, all that tells me is we needed to visualize it, we needed the public to visualize it, and then we can take action, which is a very spineless move. So, on top of everything else, Bob Stoops agrees at this point, in retrospect, that Joe Mixon should have been cut by the school. 2.5 years later, dismissal is really the only thing that is possible, Stoops said. A young guy having an opportunity to rehabilitate and to have some kind of discipline and come back from it is really not there anymore. Hopefully that message goes down even to the high school level, that these things are just unacceptable to any degree. And to me, the most frustrating part of all of this is those who sit there and say, and there's a lot of commentary on this, well, you guys want equal rights. She hit him first, and she hit him hard. So much to the point that he said he felt, look, there's only one way to put this. There is no possible way with her hands that she could have done the same damage that he just did. If she really was hitting him as hard as he hit her, then Joe Mixon would have had a broken face. There's other ways to detain a situation. There's other ways to calm that down. You can pin her arms down. You can wrap her to make sure she can't move. But you can also do something that most of the times in these situations, no player simply has the balls to do. Walk away.
But this is what I mean.
But God forbid that video gets out, by the way. Oh, look how much of a pussy Joe Mixon is for walking away after getting hit. Because that's the commentary that's going to take over sports news and headlines, because unfortunately you have to sift through a lot of BS to get to any clear point.
I just feel like it's the broken record syndrome again with me when it comes to my criticisms of American football culture. But you're not taught to deal with any other altercation other than physicality. Like, from the point of the game, you need to be building the mental side of these young kids, as well as you're building their athleticism and their rules and regulations on the field, and how that doesn't transfer to off the field. Just because you're out there sent out to kill your opponent, to go out and do everything you can to get that ball or to get that ball into the end zone, that doesn't mean that the same rules and regulations apply in real life. You need to be understanding that those things are not how you deal with adverse situations. There is talking. I understand this girl in this instance was not an angel to start with here, but she did not deserve to get her face bashed in. The same way is that we need to be teaching kids, especially American football players, at an early age, that there's other ways to deal with these situations. There is, if you are, as you mentioned there, in a position where you are the superior force, because there's no doubt who's the superior force here. There's a man who is an athletic individual who has played an athletic sport. You mentioned it. There's ways that need to be taught that you can walk away from a situation. You can try to restrain, which again can sometimes escalate. But to try and justify the guy's actions because she hit him first or whatever else the bullshit comment section will run away with to try and justify a woman getting punched like that, I just don't want to hear it, because I think that it's a problem that's rife throughout this sport. Just go and type in NFL domestic violence and just have a field day and look at the amount of instances that plague this sport more than any other one. I don't see world football players getting into the same level of abuse as this, because
I don't see it with NBA or
I don't see
baseball
NBA either. I mean, baseball in certain situations.
Of course there's instances, of course there's
but
cases.
It's not as prominent as this sport is. So if you are trying to look away from that because of how much you like the sport, then you're an imbecile. I'm sorry.
Look, I've been saying that for a long time. There's nothing that gets me more upset than the people in powerful positions who say, when there's all this science about concussions and now a trend of domestic violence now at the college level, nothing gets me more upset than when I hear, well, too bad we love it so much.